자, 오늘 해볼 게임은 스탠리 패러블. 옛날에 뭐 스탠리 패러블이라고 해서 나레이션이 하라는 대로 하라는 게임이 있었죠. 그 게임이 그 게임이 뭐 이번에 울트라 디럭스라고 해가지고 뭐 새로 나왔다고 하는데 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 감사하게도 한글 패치를 만들어주신 분들이 계셔서 한글 패치를 설치하고 게임을 하도록 하겠습니다. 한글 패치를 만들어주신 팀 임시님들에게 감사를 표하고 게임 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 이전에 스탠리 패러블을 플레이해본 적이 있으신가요? 네. 플레이 해봤다기보다 영상으로 봤어 나는. 그때는 방송을 안 했으니까. 현재 시각 야 10분 대기 코앞이야. 10분 확인 완벽해. 메인 메뉴를 설정할 수 있습니다. 알겠습니다.
This is the story of a man.
깔끔한 거 봐. 수직 동기화 끄고 해상도 조정해주고 저장 됐다. 자 한번 해봅시다. 이 아저씨 되게 오랜만에 나레이션 아저씨.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's
그러니까 안 해본 사람은 전작으로 가는 것 같아. 안 해봤다 하면 전작, 해봤다 하면 이번 작.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that
지시가 안 내려.
one single
그래, 이렇게
order
일하고
had arrived on the
월급
monitor for him
받으면은
to follow.
행복한
No one showed
삶일까?
up to give him instructions,
내가
greeting, or
내가
even
일을
say
해.
hi.
근데 그게
Never
딱히
in
도움이
all
되진
his
않지만
years at the
그렇다고
company,
없어서는 안
Stanley
되는
said,
일이긴 해.
"This complete
그렇지만 뭔가 다른
isolation,
사람한테 성과를 얘기할
something
수는
was
없어.
very
쉬운
clearly
일이니까.
wrong."
근데
Shocked,
월급은 또
frozen
꼬박꼬박 받아.
solid,
과연 난
Stanley found
행복할까?
himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to
난
his
그런
wits
생각을
and
좀 해요.
regained his senses,
만약
he got up
일을
from his
해.
desk and stepped out of his office.
만약 일을 해. 일을 해가지고 내가 일하는데 이게 그렇게 중요한 일은 아니야. 근데 그렇다고 안 해도 된다 이것도 아니야. 근데 이게 막 그렇게 그러니까 어려운 일이 아니야. 게다가 그러니까 일에 보람이 없어. 하지만 월급은 꼬박꼬박 받아. 만족할 수 있는 삶일까 이게?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
모든
Stanley
동료들이
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference.
난 일이
Nor
좋아.
did it
내
advance
상사가
the story
싫을
in
뿐.
any way.
웃어요. 네. 스탠리 패러블만큼 리미널 스페이스 심한 것도 없는데 나 지금 살짝 무섭거든요. 아니
When Stanley came to a set of two open
이때
doors,
뒤에 문
he entered the door and
열면은 열리거든요. 들어갈까?
This was
Oh!
the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
뭐가 생기긴 했는데 예전이랑 다르긴 한데
Ah, yes, truly a view
시원한
worth
음료.
admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took
그러니까
the first open
나레이션이
door on his
시키는 대로 해야
left.
되는 게임이에요. 뭐라고? 못 봤어.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
어머나! 안돼!
But Stanley didn't want to go back.
아 잘못 눌렀어요.
He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now, in order to get back, he needed to go from here it's left.
왼쪽으로 가.
Oh no, no, it's to the right. My mistake.
오른쪽.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly. Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
그러면요.
Now let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep. Okay. Yes, I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
이쪽으로 간다. 뭐야?
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Stanley, close your eyes. We just have to get back to who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted.
그러니까 이 부분은 해본 적이 있는 부분이고
Everything should be... did something change?
뭐 메인 엔딩을 하나 진행하면은 신규 콘텐츠가 열린다는데 메인 엔딩이 뭐죠? 나 봐요 메인 엔딩은 모르는데.
Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
아무것도 몰라. 난 아무것도 모른다. 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 난 아무것도.
Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Yes. 너무 백룸인데? 어디로 가든 내면의 죄책감. 다 결국 이쪽으로 다 이어지네. 내면의 죄책감. 나레이션의 말을 따르지 않은 나의 죄책감.
This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story.
길이 개판인데요?
Do we need to restart the game again?
No.
I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress.
한번 찾아볼게요, 제가.
Over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why?
씨브레. 게임 좀 하자.
His co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
여기 방문이 뉴 콘텐츠로 바뀐다고 하네요. 메인 엔딩 지나면.
Okay, yeah, I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
그러니까 뭐 안에 뭐 생기긴 했거든. 여기 보면 막 여기 이런 거 문 열려 있는 게 원래 없었는데 생겼어.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
개판이네.
Now this, well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this
개판이야,
place at all.
개판이야 아주.
Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct?
문 또 어디 갔어?
Do you remember, Stanley?
Do you
Well, you know what?
remember?
Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
예!
Congratulations!
와!
I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off. So, good job. Oh no, no, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right,
오!
I've got a solution. This time, to make
Suddenly
sure we
Parable
don't get lost,
Adventure
I've
Line.
employed the help of the Stanley
가자.
Parable
이제
Adventure
틀에
Line.
박힌 삶을 살 수
Just
있어.
follow the line. How simple is that?
야. 야. 가자.
You see, the line knows where the story is.
아,
It's over
가자.
in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation
뭐
of
이렇게
the
훑으면서
nature of life
지나가냐?
itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that.
메인 엔딩을 빨리 봐야 돼가지고 일단
I
하라는 대로
think
합시다.
what we need right now is a bit of
말발만장
music to
기업
lighten the
불기는
mood.
기능기요 통합 구석에 직원번호 430 평가 금융기록 기업 불투명 구석 계정
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern.
양치식물
Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't
Do
want to
you
miss anything.
remember? 알겠습니다. 확실히 기억하도록 하죠.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line,
맞네.
you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
가라는 대로 다시
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us?
해고돼.
After we trusted you, after everything we've
야,
been
씨,
through.
뭐 했는데 해고됐냐?
No,
이렇게
I
쉬운
can't
일하면서.
take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
아,
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
destruction. 근데 결국 이렇게
Now, yes, this
어,
is exciting.
나레이션이 만든 이야기랍시고 모르는 이야기들인데 하는 것도 다 만든 거잖아 결국엔.
Go wild. Use your imagination.
생각해보면 결국
Be Stanley.
아 이거 아닌데 한 것도 다 만든 거잖아. 씨.
Oh no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
에일리언인가 봐요.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in
인생은
our control.
B와
How important we mustn't squander the opportunity.
B와
I
D의
need a minute to think.
C다.
Just walk in circles for a minute.
벌스와
Okay. So
데스의
each
초이스다.
has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the
뭐야?
answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
혼란 엔딩.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending.
오랜 시간이 지난 후
And we're
스탠리
supposed to
사망?
restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes?
덜덜덜덜덜.
Determined?
의자 있네. 의자 가서
So
떨자.
now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what?
덜덜덜덜.
Am I just supposed to forget?
덜덜덜덜.
Well, what if I don't want to forget?
덜덜덜덜.
My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide?
Huh?
Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want
아,
to forget what's
야 마우스
going on.
두 개 누르니까 걷는다. 나 이거 쳐다보면서 글자가 커지길래 그러니까 나 이거 보면서 글자가 커지길래 뭐지 했는데 내가 앞으로 가는 거였어. 나 이거 확된 줄 알았는데.
Break the cycle. The whatever it is that made this schedule. How would we even know? Will someone come for us?
야, 좌클릭 우클릭 동시에 누르면 걸어 앞으로. 나 이거 이래가지고 갑자기 글자 커지길래 확된 줄 알았어.
Guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you
소름 돋아. 씨. 이제
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
이제 진짜로 처음부터 다시 하는 거예요.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
와. 사장님 화장실. 부자가 되는 건 범죄인가? 범죄를 저지르는 건 부자 아닌가? 하나만 고를 수 있는 삶이라면 얼마나 좋을까? 극한의 화장실. 사장님 저 왔어요. 귀여워. 비즈니스 전략.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth
뭐라고?
that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
아.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead
Mind
through the large
control,
door that
touch,
read Mind
touch.
Control Facility.
탈출. 아 몰라 일단 가. 나중에 또 오면 되지. 바로 이 버튼이야.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
일부러 장치해 놓은 거예요. 이거로 그러니까 처음에 나레이션이 하라는 대로 하는 거 솔직히 말하면 대부분의 사람이 안 해요.
Now the monitors jumped to life.
대부분의 사람들이 안 해. 하라는 대로 안 해.
Of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers.
다
The
해보당했어.
lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place.
되게 보기 힘들 것 같은데 이렇게 하면.
Nothing.
그러니까 한 번에 싹싹 해가지고 20대 20으로 화면 해가지고 하나하나 확인한 다음에 다음 넘기고 20대 20 확인하고 이렇게 해야지. 이렇게 확인하면 하나하나 감시하기 힘들잖아. 누가 딴짓하는지 모른단 말이야.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating,
나 이거는 처음 보는
working,
것 같은데.
all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
어프.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go.
아홉길 여기를 왜 내려가게 해가지고 못 나가게 해.
What to do or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way right now that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
열렸다.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
아니 이 정도 거리 이동할 오!
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
2013년에 나왔구나.
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the
더
Stanley
많은
Parable,
것.
delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
어허, 뒤가 열렸네. 점프 가능한 원.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
오! 이게 게임이지. 답답해. 지금까지 답답해 죽을 뻔했어. 이게 게임이지. 야, 나 지금까지 답답해 죽는 줄 알았어. 이것도 야 점프도 안 되는 게임이 세상에 어딨냐? 와 진짜. 몇 년이야? 야 7년, 8년, 9년이 지나서 점프를 넣었어. 와 행복해. 쉣. 리셋 없네.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something
가는 척.
else, right?
못 들어가는 거지 저거.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes, I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
아저씨 되게 화났네. 뭐임? 새로운 콘텐츠를 플레이해 주셔서 감사합니다.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations.
다시
If you're still
시작하나요?
with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just
이
you and
게임은
me
실제로
having a great time
DLC로
together like
DLC를
always.
한
What do you
10,000원쯤에
say,
팔아서
friend?
이 표지판 하나 마음대로 가지고 놀 수 있게끔만 해도 다 존나 팔릴걸? 이건 뭐예요 이거는? 왜냐면 이 게임은 게임 자체보다
Psst. Stanley,
왜요?
come over here. In the vent. I
그래?
want to show you something.
헤드크랩 이런 것만 아니면 돼. 이 게임 자체가 팬이 되게 많아요. 그러니까 이 게임은 이제 뭘 해도 사람들이 사주는 게임이 된 거라서 한 그거 한 5번 정도 해도 돼. 뭐 있을 거라 생각하셨나요 하면서 계속 이렇게 낚시만 해도 엄청 팔릴 거야 이 게임. 이제 서울대학교?
Take a look. I call it the memory zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the
잊지
launch of
말도록
the Stanley Parable on
추억,
PC.
달콤한 추억 문의.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how
Stanley Parable.
wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap
아,
re-release?
2013
Remember back in October
스탠리
of
패러블이
2013 when
발매되었던
the
때
game originally launched? Back then, video
The
games had
Stanley
integrity. Back then, it all meant
관객상
something.
인디펜던트 게임
Oh, the
페스티벌
waste.
텔레비전 예술 아카데미 브루스 스트레일리 우리의 첫 키스 첫 번째 자가용 시간 왜 저그랬냐 봐라 추억의 공간 임시 오리지널 리메이크 파이어폭스 쓰네 계열받다 좋았던 한때 다 기분 나빴던 때 아닌가 이거? 기분 나빠서 하지 말라 했던 때 아닌가? 과거를 회상하는 추억 여행 그 일이 있었다는 것을 웃어봐요 돈 이거는 그 좀 상징적인 의미가 있는 그거예요 이것도 케이스인가? 케이스가 되게 많이 팔렸던 걸로 알고 있는데 1달러짜리 케이스 달성 불가능 밖으로 나가기 5년 동안 플레이하지 마십시오 수상 후보 새로운 비디오 게임 오늘 발매되다 뉴욕 타임스 죽었다 이거 옥상에 떨어져 죽는 엔딩
And over here
올해
is where I keep
모드
reviews of the
베스트
Stanley
게임
Parable. Like this stunning
우호
triumph of
부문
games
명예상
journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then
레딧 0,
succeeds
공유
to be
0,
every
트윗 0,
game ever
플러스
created."
0.
Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable
하지
was.
마세요
It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
아니 여기서부터 벌써 아니지? 일직선이지? 올해의 인물 그립 최고의 재산이라 바로 추억이다 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다.
Here's another moving passage,
GameSpot.
this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
장점, 특출나게 재미있음. 아주 놀라운 결과를 주는 의미 있는 선택들로 가득함. 믿을 수 없이 영리하고 장난스럽게 즐거움. 단점, 흡음. 굉장히 주관적이구나. 진지한 방. 와, 어쩌라고. 왜 못
These
들어가게.
were simpler times, Stanley.
열렸네?
But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this?
평가.
What's down here?
이거 설마 부정적 평가냐?
Oh, God, no.
안 돼, 가고 싶지
Stanley's
않아.
collection of reviews
안 돼.
from Steam.
안 돼, 가고 싶지 않아.
Distributor. I have not I can't imagine been collecting down here.
보고 싶지
Sure,
않아.
these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not
Hey!
funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
틱톡. 왜 비추천만 글 써놓는 거야?
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I?
그
You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always would, to be
조금?
honest, I had
little
always
bit?
thought of the game
A little bit?
as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
이건 또 뭐지? 얼마나 이번에도 얼마나 비수를 후벼 팠을까? 비수로.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If
점프
I'm
좀
truly
줘.
too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
아. 왜 들어가 보게끔 만드는 거야 이거 다? 에? 왜 암흑 공간이 돼 있죠? 무서우니까 닫아.
And here it is.
그래요. 뭐야?
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue. Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your
Skip!
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's Well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has
Skip!
been... Stanley!
왜요?
Stanley!
왜요? 왜?
Stanley,
왜?
please
왜?
don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there.
왜요?
I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really
문도
truly
사라졌어.
getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door
그래,
is gone.
문이 사라졌네요.
Completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button. And if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen.
이제 안
I have
눌러야지.
no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again.
아, 이제 안 눌러야지.
I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. And I have to believe, I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking.
누를 거라 생각하니까 누르기 싫어졌어.
Oh my God. It's all because of those reviews.
내가 누를 거라고 평가해보니 내가 누를 거라고 판단해보니까 안 누르고 싶어졌어. 뭐지? 내 감정을 지배하고 있다. 마인드 컨트롤 당하고 있다. 나는 지금.
I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative thing that anyone ever says about me. The merest mention of one of my...
원래 인기를 가진 사람들은 부정적인 평가를 의연하게 받아낼 수 있어야 합니다. 전 아직 유명하지 않아서 모르겠지만 당신은 유명하잖아요. 그만하세요. 스킵 누르기 싫어 나도 이제. 아 그만해. 얼마나 얘기를 얼마나 하는 거야 이씨.
Such an impulse serve? For whose benefit?
얼마나 얘기하는 거야 그만 좀 해.
Waiting for you to press this button, to become frozen in time, knowing that you're going to do it and that I'm going to be stuck all alone.
네,
That I have the
알겠습니다.
power to prevent it all from happening. If only I'd held my tongue. It's all out of my control now. Just
아 좀
you.
아끼라고.
Just your decision as to exactly when you're going to make me suffer, to leave me all alone. Surely you will. I don't doubt it. Surely you'll press that button again, leaving me here. And surely you'll put your own desire to see what's next ahead of my need for company.
딱히 뭐 없을 것 같은데.
Surely you'll not
그냥 말 없을 것 같은데 말 없이 기다리다가 좀 기다렸다가 초기화할 것 같은데.
Oh no. I know you too well. You'll be leaving me again. Oh my God. And it's all because of those reviews. Those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine.
이거 끝까지 가니까 결국 그거네요. 똑같은 얘기 하네요. 스킵.
Oh Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's all... Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To
무슨
begin,
500년 버튼 돼버렸네.
there is only the
그러니까
turning wheel of
나는 괜찮은데 나레이터만 500년 버튼 돼버리네.
time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest
어차피 할 수 있는
longing
것도 없으니까
to
누르자.
undo the
따라란 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 따 쿵짝짝 쿵짝짝 따라리라리라리라리라리 따라란 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 스킵. 이게 어디서 나는 소리일까요? 아 스캡!
But But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth.
아, 트리플 악셀하고 예술적으로 스킵. 시계가 고장났어. 이제 움직이지 않아. 아, 예술적인 스캡.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end,
아,
end, is
아,
never the end,
아,
the end, is never the
아.
end, is never the end, is never the end,
수돗물인가 봐. 아리순 느낌 나는데.
never the end.
야, 물이 점점 많이 떨어지는데? 맞네. 이거 위가 그거잖아. 여기 이 공간 위쪽이 그거잖아. 안에 들어와 있는 상태구나, 지금. 이제 물 나와가지고 탈출할 수 있는 듯? 오. 자연이 생겼어. 또다시 많은 시간이 지났구만요. 이제 슬슬 이 건물도 무너질라 하네. 뭐지? 어? 한 번만 더 누르자. 스킵 버튼 고장났어요. 고쳐주세요. 아, 더 누르고 싶은데. 그가 물이 말랐어. 원래 여기 처음 들어왔을 때 물이 있었는데 물이 다 말랐어 지금. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않아. 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 와, 바위와 바위 사이에, 돌과 돌 사이에 점을 이어볼까? 아,
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
그리고 이렇게 해서 뉴 콘텐츠가 뜹니다.
Oh, good. You notice my sign.
뉴
Yes,
콘텐츠.
I have something very exciting to show you.
여기로 가는 거 아닐까? 아니네. 뉴 콘텐츠를 깨면 뉴 콘텐츠. 뉴 콘텐츠가 나와요.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
오! 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않아.
Yes, you see.
되게 그거 같다. 그 SK 브로드밴드.
Minor additions. Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel.
그니까 핸드폰 가게 그거 같아. 이 깔끔한 폰트에다가 디자인에다가 이거. 일어날 시간 2야. 프린터 두 개를 동시에 테스트. 자, 투자자 쇼케이스 가보자.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much
후속작을
catchier than
맛보세요.
Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
살짝 정신 놓으신 것 같은데. 그들이 돌아왔다 2개의 문. 새로운 콘텐츠 빼고 새로운 콘텐츠 파트 2를 추가. 식상한 플러스 공을 따끈한 신상. 빨갛고 멋진 차트 조각. 더 많은 스탠리 패러블, 더 좋은 스탠리 패러블 윈윈. 연속적인 소비자 인지도, 인식의 전환 시너지 오프라인을 통해 접근, 빨간색 통째적 가치에 영향을 주. 운의 전에. 아니 이건 기억하라더니 결국 나왔네. 스탠리 패러블 2 로고 아이디어. 회의에 참가해주셔서 감사합니다. 이건 너무 억지다 이거. 이 디자인은 너무 억지다. 야.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
이쪽이 무대입니다. 중요한 투자자 여러분.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
게임을 플레이하는 플레이어의 이름을 말하는 버튼. 당신의 멋진 이름을 게임에서 들으세요.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players
완벽한
really
버튼으로의
want?
여정.
And of course,
너무
the first
큰,
and most
너무
obvious
작은,
answer is
딱
that they want to
알맞은.
be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
실제로 가능하다면 정말 대단하긴 하네요. 뭐 스팀 닉네임 말하지 않을까?
Jim. Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim.
오케이.
I want you to imagine yourself
집중해,
living as
집중해.
Jim, sleeping
메소드
and waking
집중해.
as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim, watching your dreams crumble into dust.
로스앤젤레스에 살고 있는 캘리포니아 사람.
Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button. Jim.
어떻게 내 이름을!
Thrill! What a rush! That was you!
이럴 수가!
I didn't describe you. Do it again. Do it again.
이럴 수가! 내 이름을 어떻게! 어떻게 내
The
이름을!
second time, if this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away.
치운다고?
Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
아, 치면 안 돼. 까비. 잼. 나 실제로 내 닉네임도 찜이라서 실제인 줄 알았어. 두 글자 중에 한 글자만 말하는 건 줄 알았어. 얘는 가장 스크린샷 금지. 점프 가능한 원 끝없는 구멍. 안심을 주는 양동이. 마렵다.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of
누가
reckless
가져갔는데요?
despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see,
새로운
Stanley,
콘텐츠, 새로운
anytime you're
콘텐츠, 새로운
holding the
콘텐츠, 새로운
bucket,
콘텐츠.
a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable
이것도 번역해놨어.
perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding
양동이
it has
퀄리티 왜
made
이렇게
you the
좋냐?
slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
한 걸음 걸을 때마다 흔들리게 설계해놨네.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
디자인 너무 그거 같아. 뭐지? 그 선거 운동이라 하나? 자기 색깔 옷 그거 같아. 디자인이 너무. 사무실 장식.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
12살 생일 축하한다, 조카 녀석아.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
아, 생겼네. 생겼네.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision. We're moving on.
진짜 나무 점프
Let's
리셋해달라고.
bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece. then.
리셋해달라고. 아유, 진짜. 끝없는 농담. 당신은 앞으로 짐이라 불리는 어느새 바뀌었네. 이게 마지막일 것 같은데. 이거 한번 들어가 볼까? 에필로그.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it would go at the end of the... well, we'll figure that out later.
설정하기 세계 챔피언. 아직 안 열리네. 공짜 도전 과제. 출구가 저기 있네. 그럼 저기만 가지 말자. 지금 당장 달성해가세요. 레버를 당기세요. 새로운 도전 과제 받아. 이상 절차 그냥 바로 달성돼요. 지금 달성해가세요.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
열받아.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
새로운 요소 찾을 수 있을까요? 찾을 수 있을까요? 찾을 수 있을까요? Collect them all.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
응? 사라졌어.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game, and then they give you a big fancy reward for it.
끝없는
Absolutely
구멍.
tragic.
깊이 무한대 주변부. 끝없는 구멍의 구조. 구멍 있고 무한. 스스로 계속 내려갑니다.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button
구멍이
to
점점
get back to
작아지고
the
있어.
top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things. Okay, Stanley. I don't know quite how to say this
구멍 더
tactfully. It's
작아졌어.
possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone
더
to say
작아졌어.
that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a...
어머,
Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom
새로운
of the
머그잔.
hole. You found me out, Stanley.
2시에 회의합시다.
I'm a liar
진심을
and
담아.
cheat and you're so
만관부.
clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal
돌이
person
되어버린 날
actually
잊은 것
wants to
같은
fall
너의
over?
모습에 하나일 때보다
I
난
figured
외롭고
the hole was
허전해
as
네가
deep as
가져간 나의
anyone would
부족
actually
때문이다.
need.
그래서 난
Don't you put this on
둘이 될 수
me.
있었던
Maybe
거야.
you're the problem.
모든 일시정지 버튼은 로마 숫자
Look,
2이다.
things got a little heated there. I think we
담배꽁초.
both said some things we didn't mean.
여기
Why
담배
don't
피는
we just
곳인가
put
봐요.
all this behind us and agree to just call the whole mostly infinite. If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
잠깐만 스크린샷 좀 아까 찍어놔가지고 이거 지워야 돼. 몇 개를 찍은 거야? 씨. 엄청 찍어댔네. 됐다. 가자.
Great. Now, I'm very excited. I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal.
텔레포트 버튼이나 띄워줘요.
Yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh.
그러게요. 좀 짧네.
Even shorter to you this time. I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. The shame of my lie has come to haunt. How is this still appealing to you?
아니 점프를 만들었으면 나갈 수 있었잖아요.
Holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do, and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just
점프
a
한번
moment
줘요.
ago. Try it again.
점프 한번 줘요. 점프 한번 줘요.
Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it.
맞아. 딱히 따로 있는 건 없긴 한데.
Than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else.
저 없으면 아무것도 못
Take care,
하시면서.
Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
에이 이래놓고 또 올 거면서 에이 양동이는 언제쯤 으어! 구멍이 깊어지고 있어. 구멍이 깊어지고 있어. 이럴 수가! 이러면 무한한 구멍이 맞지. 이게 늘어나 버리네. 잘 있어라 세상아. 난 구멍과 살겠다. 하나가 되겠다. 개멋있어. 너무 멋있어. 이렇게 끝없이 할 게 늘어나는 이 게임이야말로 진정한 울트라 디럭스가 아닐까? 이것이 울트라 드럭스가 아닐까? 할 게 끝없이 늘어나는데? 누를 거 또 나올라나? 에러. 에러 근본이지. 배경도 끝이 없어. 야, 배경 존나 웃겨. 배경이 끝이 없어. 야,
Stanley!
왜?
Oh, good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of dozed
아,
off.
좋았는데 왜
Drifted
끊어?
away into dreamland. But we can't have that,
아씨,
Stanley,
재밌었는데.
because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the
그것도
hole?
나쁘지 않네요.
From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole.
Eh.
I'm looking forward to all of them.
에.
Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodlepip.
뭐야? 뭐야?
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
처음부터 다시는 아닌 것 같지? 양동이가 있는 거 보니까. 아예 메워져 있는 거 아닐까? 문이 안 열려 있네요. 점프 가능한 원, 이 지도, 공짜 도전과제, 상품, 설정하기 세계 챔피언, 아니 주물주는 양동이, 에페소 수빈녀, 끄주는 출구. 내가 이제 안 해본 거 없지? 에필로그도 해봤고, 저기도 가봤고, 저기도 가봤고. 하나 안 해봤거든요. 이거. 설정하기 세계 챔피언을 못 해봤어. 이거 어떻게 하는 건지 안 알려주는데. 모르겠어. 가자.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
그렇게 말하니까 못 가겠잖아요. 양동이 놓고 못 가나? 양동이 놓고 가고 싶은데. 아, 가져가라고. 아, 정말로. 전작보다 더 촐싹된, 촐싹되게 바뀌었어, 사람. 나레이션. 왜 이렇게 촐싹되죠? 진짜 상처였나봐. 부정적 평가들이. 따따라따따. 따따라따따따따. 따따라따따.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good
여기
game in
버그
there
났네요.
somewhere. Say, let's do an
아,
experiment.
버그 있네요, 여기.
I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience.
내가 봤을 때 이거 합치면은 욕 더 먹지 않을까요?
Okay. Are you ready?
나라도 부정적이게 될 것
Here
같은데,
it
이거는.
is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
뭐야?
I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
스탠리 패러블 2 버전 2.
Who am I kidding, Stanley?
점프 가능한
This isn't
무한의
a
구멍.
coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
나? 자막이 다인 게임인데 자막을 크게 해야 돼.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders.
스캡.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
자, 어떻게 접목시켰는지 한번 봅시다.
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it?
그래.
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
이동 속도가 좀 빨라진
Still
느낌인데.
no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
들어갔어.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it?
뭐야?
The broom closet.
어?
It wants the bucket.
오!
You can feel that, can't you? The aura
오!
of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet
오!
believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It
Oh.
belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be.
가져가. 필요
Given the
없어.
pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your
필요 없어.
companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet is? Simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends.
헉!
That your
정답.
relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it.
너네 너네 우리 양동이한테 뭐라 하면은 이 씨발 양동이 말을 어떻게 하는 건데 씨.
Share your journal entries detailing the
아니 네가 주우라면
landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
가져가. 필요 없어. 가져가.
Okay, I've got you something which, coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
야, 이동 속도가
He
빨라졌어.
felt that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked
내가
the
미친
bucket.
걸까?
The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all.
대답해. 너도 날 무시하는 거야?
Stanley thought.
이거 참
Usually
이상하네.
the bucket is a source of guidance.
평소라면 이런 힘든 시기에 양동이가 내 길잡이가 되어주고 지혜의 원천이
He
되어줬는데
held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized this isn't
이건 내 양동이가 아니야. 그냥 흔히 볼 수 있는 평범한 양동이라고. 아마 다른 사람이 쓰는 양동이겠지. 어떻게 다른 사람이 양동이를 갖게 된 거지? 이건 완전히 잘못됐어. 뭐 어디 갔어? 양동아! 아 그렇다고 양동이 그냥 냈다 가져가 버리네. 아닌데 난 제대로 가고 있는데? 맞게 가고 있는데요?
He exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him. Stanley! Stanley!
양동아!
Me, the bucket.
양동, 이게 너무 많은데? 잠깐만.
Room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket. Come to me, Stanley.
이게 아니라고?
He had to find the bucket.
기다려 양동아.
To his old friend. It was
이
the
양동이
only
두
way
개가
to truly
합쳐져 있는.
restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him.
나야 안 해?
It was incredible. Stanley doubled over.
나의 몸에 양동이가.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself.
스토리에 양동이만 넣었을 뿐이네, 확실히.
Right away,
근데 이게 꽤 어려운 걸 알고는 있긴 한데.
This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. there were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself,
인정이지.
my
내 삶은
life
겁나
kicks
오지거든.
ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
그럼
How
양동
wonderful.
이가 없네?
Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of
양동이를
comfort
들면은
rushed
속도가 빨라져. 어이없어.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
속도가 빨라져
and
되게.
entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find... Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the
지랄마.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
어?
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley
뭐야,
figures.
진짜 있었어?
Remember, no reward for collecting all of these.
뭐야, 피규어 진짜
only the
있었어?
intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
피곤하다. 게임이 되게 피곤하다.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
매지컬.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Yes. 양동이가 속도를 올려줘가지고 너무 편함. 시야를 좀 가리긴 하는데.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
다른 거는 어디에 써먹고 있을까? 다른 엔딩이 하나씩 있는 건가? 양동이를 안 들어야만 보여주는 걸까?
He would be all right.
그러니까 양동이를 안 들고 가는 선택지도 있었던 거 생각하면 양동이를 안 들고 가는 게 맞는 선택일 수도.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door.
안 가야지.
Mind control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
뻑큐.
The door behind them was not shut.
뻑큐.
Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
그냥 가.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
야. 허걱스.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket
양동아, 나에게 용기를 줘.
reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket.
양동아,
But what
나에게
use
힘을
is a
줘.
sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death. This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time
양동아,
carrying a bucket everywhere.
나에게 힘을 줘.
Farewell, Stanley.
아직 끝나지 않았어. 양동이 파워.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the
Whoa.
narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led
Eh?
helplessly into
누구세요?
the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, The bucket's life came
양동아!
as it was crushed violently to death.
양동아? 양동이 살았네. 가자, 양동아.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
양동이 죽었네. 양동이. 위대한 전시회에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 저런 거 멈춰서 보세요. 전 안 봐.
Can you see
전 안
how
봐요.
arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see
손잡이가
that
두
the
개인
bucket is
양동이.
far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
녹슨동이. 양동이는 동굴벽화에도 있다.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the
매달린
bucket.
동이.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful
양동아!
bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their
양동아!
treatment as tools and implements if
양동아,
only
할 수
we
있어.
let Stanley die together.
양동아!
The bucket shall take its place as ruler,
양동아!
as leader, as commander of
양동아, 할 수 있어!
a new vision.
버텨! 양동아! 양동이는 날 살려줬을 거야. 죽었네.
All of his co-workers were
이번에 양동이 없이
What
가보죠.
did it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
양동이 안 가져갔다고 뭐라 안 하네 이번에.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
저것들을 어떻게 찾을 것인가? 넓은 방, 많은 상자? 계단과 관련되어 할 일. 빨강과 파랑 모두 어딘가에서 게임 같은 건가요? 어떻게 그걸 봤다고 말할 수 있는가? 무엇이 저것들 떠다니게 하는 거지? 누가 이 사진을 찍은 것인가?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
오른쪽으로 왔어야 했는데. 얘가 죽는 거 찾았다.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanley.
그러니까 문 두 개 열린 곳에서
and
오른쪽으로
figures.
가야 돼.
What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
캔니 피규레니.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
초기화해도 먹어진다면야 이게 맞긴 한데.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
먹어졌다. 오른쪽 갑시다. 양동이 들고.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. the bucket was wrong, Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The
오용치,
cargo lift,
이영애를
yes.
씨.
Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
어허.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the
피겠니,
Figler anurines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler anurines. None of us can.
그럼 죽어야 되나 이제? 그건 아니구나. 내레이터 사운드 시스템.
This is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Camporata.
이게 무슨 일이야?
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
이해가 안 가. 내가 본 게 뭔지 모르겠어.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
여기서 정상적인 길로 가면은 문이 나오거든요. 내가 알기로.
Said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yeah, good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of
What?
course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how did you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket?
뭐 양동이를
I
왜
suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
이것은
Now
양동이일까요?
then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
Yes.
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual.
일로 와봐 이 새끼야. 너 이 새끼야 일로 와봐. 진짜 홀로그램인지 만져보게.
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
맞습니다. 개새끼야 일로 와.
It is a 3D
야, 이 새끼야!
recreation of a
야!
bucket, not an
맞짱
actual
떠?
bucket.
이 새끼야.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
이쯤에서 아니라고 생각할 줄 알겠지? 이것도 맞아. 그렇지.
This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
네.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to...
문제를 왜 거저줘? 지금 양동이가 문제인지 아닌지 알고 있는 건데
Let's just move on to the next one.
왜 거저 문제를 왜 거저줘? 네가 학교 선생님이야? 아니 이거 뭐야?
Is this a bucket?
예스. 이렇게 된 이상 맞다고 할 수밖에 없어.
Correct. This is a bucket.
이렇게 된 이상 맞다고 할 수밖에 없어. 틀렸든 맞췄든 이제 난 더 이상 그 무엇도 할 수 없어.
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both.
아!
Gotcha.
아 속았네. 아 이런 짓궂은 장난꾸러기. 아 속아버렸네. 아
Hold on, I can't find the next one.
이것도
It
양손.
should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something.
슈레딩거의 양동이가
Unless,
되네.
in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that
홀로그램이랑
nothing is a
3D 프린터로 먼저 통수 친 게 누구지?
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
고첩지몬까지 가.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to
둘 다
tear
꺼졌어.
our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely.
그럴 순 없을걸?
Okay, here we go.
안 될걸? 핑거 스냅을 해버리네.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person. All right, here we go.
아무튼 양동이를 들지 말.
All of his co-workers were gone.
아무튼 양동이를 들지 말라는 거지. 저기 갈
Stanley
때.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
뭔가 이상한데? 아닌가?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and
뭐가 좀
Stanley knew
길어지지
perfectly
않았어?
well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Yes.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Yes.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
어메!
I'm not sure, but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story,
아이씨, 좌클릭 우클릭 둘 다 눌렀네. 아이씨.
Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged.
개 같은 거.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted
아니,
to
뭐
stop
꼬인
by
거
the employee
같아가지고
lounge first,
다시
just to
하려고요.
admire it.
실수는 아니고
Butterflies in
내가
his
실수할 리가
stomach,
없잖아.
but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
빨간 문 파란 문이 어딘지 기억이 잘 안 나긴 해 근데.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to
나다,
help
찾았다.
you, to show you something
여기다
beautiful.
마지막
And
스탠리.
there it is, the last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it.
이러고 회의실 가면
Where
될 것
so
같은데.
many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done.
예.
We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Now
해결했어.
listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked... All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. Do you see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map.
아니
because you were never supposed to
8년
be here
9년
in the
동안
first
뭐 한
place.
거야? 여기 만들어야지.
Exposed development
어?
textures.
9년
This is
동안
what you would
9년
wanted.
동안 뭐 했어? 여기 만들었어야 할 거 아니야.
Story I'd written out specifically for you.
do you not think I put a
아,
lot of time into that? Because I did.
뭐함?
And in
9년
the
동안
end, it was all for
만들어놨어야지.
nothing, because this is what you
울트라
wanted.
디럭스라며. 왜
Help
울트라
me
아닌
understand,
건데?
help elucidate
왜
these
마이너스 된
strange, unknowable
건데?
desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me, you've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Aha! You see, I knew I was onto something. Where do these flashes of inspiration come from? How did I know the game needed a third door? Well, it's instinct mostly, a calling in your gut. I really couldn't say where the idea came from, except that I felt it in my soul. You can't teach that, Stanley. Don't even try. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
와요.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
귀엽다. 돌아서 세 번 돌아서 하나 둘 셋. 에이 초기화. 아기를 죽이지 않고 끝냈다. 내가 이겼어. 수고.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines.
네.
Those
왜요?
footlights. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would
뭐냐,
love
이건 또.
nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
아, 여기 또 가? 안 열리는데 왜 만들었어?
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
어? 더 얻어버렸다.
And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the
사장님
boss's
약점을 찾기
bathroom.
위해.
You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay,
사장실
let's
계단
do a
안.
little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your
일부러
third
틀려볼까?
mini stand? Can you remember?
Can you remember?
Hey!
뭐야,
that's
둘 다 정답이었잖아,
exactly
생각해보니까.
right. It was here, behind the boss's office. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink
아닌데?
room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened. This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I
special.
remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion.
아, 못 떨어지는데.
Enjoy.
이거. 어디서 찾았을까? 내레이터 제작. 저 뒤에 뭐가 있는 거지? 여기 5번째 미니 스탠이다. 예스! 가물 리포트 가까이에서 찾았어요. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 쌍따봉. 만드니 최고의 남자 특별출연 스탠리 내레이터.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot
감동적이네요.
of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
뭐요?
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like. And then there was no more,
당신은 지금
because
현재에
we've caught
있습니다.
up to the present moment.
이 층을
Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
아
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels. Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
또 가? 만든 게 아쉬우신가요?
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
어디서 찾았을까? 예, 화물 리프트 가까이서 감사합니다.
Yes, I love that video. Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one. This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
내 방.
And before everything else, there was your office.
월요일 싫어.
Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
결국 돌아오는구나. 아이고. 자, 여기서 이 피규어 엔딩을 보면은 뭐라 하지? 게임을 5번 껐다 켜야 된다고 합니다. 그걸 어디서 볼 수 있냐면은
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
피규어를 다 모았잖아요. 회의실에서 피규어를 다 모으라고 했잖아요. 거기서 피규어를 다 모으고
When
여기
Stanley came to
회의실을
a
가게
set of two
되면은
open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there
이렇게
was not a
힌트를
single person
줍니다.
here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
게임 완전 재시작할 것이라고 뜹니다. 그래서 5번 껐다 킬게요. 한 번. 아. 왜요? 네. 그래요. 맞아요. 예, 뭐요? 네. 뭘 해보려 하지도 않았군요? 이 자식이. 화내는 건 아닙니다. 많은 사람들이 이런 설정을 무시하잖아요. 당신은 그런 사람 아니잖아요. 그렇죠? 다음에 게임을 켜고 이 화면을 보다 부디 시간을 정확히 설정해서 알겠죠? 좋아요. 대화를 나눠 좋았습니다. 바로 게임으로 보내드리죠. 이것 때문에 껐다 키란 거구나. 씨. 여기서도 우리 반골 기질을 시험하려고. 여기서도 우리 반골 기질 시험하려고. 자, 2번. 근데 이걸 셀 필요는 없어요. 나중에 에필로그가 뜬다 해가지고. 그냥 12시가 아니라. 잠시 동안 이 모든 중요하게 받아들이지 않았을까 걱정했습니다. 하지만 그건 아니었네요. 11시가 더 정확한 시간이었을지 알 방법이 없었던 것 같네요. 제가 알기로 정말 지금 12시였을 수도 있었네요. 이번에 다른 슬라이더를 사용해 확실하게 해둡시다. 11시는 현재 얼마나 정확한가요? 이 정도? 있잖아요. 그냥 말해두는 거지만 시계가 얼마나 정확하든 이 설정을 조정하느라 정말 즐거웠습니다. 당신을 더 많이 알게 된 것 같아요. 당신이 설정하기를 좋아한다는 것도요. 데이터를 수집하기 잘했네요. 슬라이더가 더 있으면 좋겠네. 하지만 가지고 있는 슬라이더는 전부 살펴봤어요. 아마도 제가 새로운 슬라이더를 발견해서 당신에 대한 새로운 데이터를 수집할 수 있을 거예요. 어렵진 않을 겁니다. 네, 몇 개 새로 만들어 볼게요. 다음에 게임을 실행할 때쯤이면 준비가 되어 있을 겁니다. 아, 뭐해? 뭐 하는 거야? 5번 껐다 키라고 하는 거 보니까 5번 정도는 해야 하나 보네. 자, 이번엔 12시 1분으로 하겠습니다. 아이, 뭐야 이거? 개와 고양이가 친구가 될 수 있게 슬라이더를 조정하세요. 이거는 연인 사이죠? 이거는 썸이고 한 하트 생길까 말까? 한 하트 생길까 말까 정도가 친구죠. 아호. 아래 2단어 중 마음에 드는 단어. 뿌슝 빠슝. 지금 몇 시인지 아시나요? 네. 지금 당신이 생각한 시간이 정확한 시간인가요? 네. 애초에 시간이란 건 뭐죠? 네. 당신에 대해 제게 말하지 않은 것이나요? 네. 도와줘요. 네. 절 보러 다시 와줄 거죠? 네. 귀찮게 하네. 쌍놈 새끼. 아, 이 자식 귀찮게 하네. 아, 아, 아유, 예. 나 지금 몇 시죠? 누구든 정말로 정확히 알고 있긴 하나요? 물론 모르겠죠. 사람들은 아무것도 모릅니다. 저와 당신 또한 서로에 대해 모르죠. 그저 남과 같아요. 물론 정확한 사양에 맞춰 게임 설정 모두 조정했는데 누가 안 했겠어요? 그게 제가 하는 일입니다. 본업이라 다름없죠. 그리고 이제 이 일은 끝났습니다. 더는 제가 수집할 정보가 없습니다. 당신에 관한 모든 자료를 가능한 한 전부 수집했어요. 그리고 저는 아직도 당신을 잘 모릅니다. 당신 또한 저에 대해서 모르고 있고요. 그리고 우리들 다 지금 몇 시인지 모릅니다. 어떤 설정들은 그냥 관리가 불가한 것 같아요. 하지만 솔직히 말하자면 시기는 게임에서 그 어떤 역할도 하지 않습니다. 다음번에 게임 시작할 땐 저는 여기 없을 거예요. 하지만 괜찮습니다. 비디오 게임은 원래 혼자 하는 거니까요. 당신은 혼자 있는 걸 좋아하잖아요. 안 그런가요? 그게 제가 당신에 대해 정말로 알게 된 유일한 정보일지도 모르겠습니다. 이제 가야 할 시간이에요. 조정해야 할 설정이 하나도 남았지만 준비되기까지 시간이 좀 걸릴 수도 있습니다. 제 직무 기술서에는 없지만 괜찮아요. 저를 찾을 수 있다면 다시 볼 수 있을 겁니다. 나중에 다시 얘기합시다. 떴다. 에필로그. 자식 귀찮게 하고 이대로 사라져버려? 자식. 자, 에필로그 봅시다. 딱히 메인 페이지는 궁금하진 않아. 자, 에필로그를 마지막으로 오늘 여기까지 하도록 하겠습니다. 진짜 길었다. 이 게임 하나 기다리겠다고 9년을. 물론 나는 그렇게 많이 기다리진 않았긴 했는데, 그러니까 나는 그냥 나올 때 되면 나오겠지 생각을 하긴 했는데, 이게 연기 뭐지, 출시 연기를 한 3번인가? 2번인가 3번 했던 걸로 알고 있거든요. 이게 이렇게까지 길어질 일이었나 싶긴 한데, 뭐 그래픽이 중요한 게임은 아니니까. 그래픽이 중요한 게임은 아니니까 언제 나오도 별로 신경은 안 쓰이는데, 나는 그래도 이런, 그러니까 시간 약속 철저하게 바라는 게임이 시간 제대로 설정 안 해 이렇게 혼내는 게임이 정작 출시 연기 오지게 했던 거 생각하면 좀 열받긴 해. 지금 12시 아니잖아요. 진짜 혼나고 싶나 진짜. 갑자기 내셔널 지오그래픽 된 거 뭐야? 방울뱀 나오는 거 아니야? 찾아봐. 야씨, 이거 찾아봐. 방울뱀 나오는 거 아니야? 딱 받아봐 이거. 추억의 공간. 추억의 공간. 더. 근데 걷는 속도 어느샌가 빨라진 거 진짜 너무 좋다 진짜. 이게 울트라 디럭스? 이 빠른 발걸음 울트라 디럭스? 쿠키 나인네 블루. 반려동물 친구 잡지. 이 고양이 개 둘의 우정은 오래도록 영원할 겁니다. 쿠키 나인의 블로그. 타협 없는 게임 콘텐츠. 2027년까지 활동하시네. 아주 대단하신 분이구만. 다른 속편들과 마찬가지로 나는 원작 스탠리 패러블을 즐겼지만 이건 내가 속편에 얼마나 실망했는지를 보여준다. 독창적이라고 주목받던 전작과 달리 스탠리 패러블2는 지루하고 영감 또함은 없으며 팬층을 모욕하기도 한다. 첫 번째 게임의 즐거웠던 부분을 늘리기보단 속편을 아무도 관심 두지 않았던 구역으로 옮겨간다. 무한히 깊은 구멍? 누가 신경 쓴다고? 새로운 엔딩들은 어디 있는가? 스탠리 페러블 1의 어드벤처 라인 같은 재미있는 요소는 대신에 우리는 영감도 없는 피규어를 모으는 사이드 퀘스트를 받는다. 심지어 이런 2편의 전환점조차 불완전하게 느껴진다. 모든 피규어를 모아도 아무것도 주지 않는다. 그래도 한마디로 하자면 나는 나 자신이 양동이에게서 꽤나 안정감을 얻는다는 것을 알았는데 이는 앞으로 스탠리 페러블의 속편 제작이 취소되었다는 소식. 스탠리 페러블 뭐야? 진! 침. 스탠리 페러블 개발자들 스피노프도 없고 속편도 없다. 개발자들은 게임을 하나의 프랜차이즈로 만들려고 계획했다. 하지만 스탠리 페러블 2에 대한 치명적인 비판과 상업적 이유는 오늘 출판된 보도자료에서 서술된 대로 개발자들에게 그들의 야망을 제고하게 하였다. 팬들이 원하는 것은 단순히 더 많은 스탠리 페러블이 아니라는 것이 확실해졌다. 보도자료에서는 우리는 플레이어들이 만족할 시리즈에 대한 비전이 있었지만 이제는 이것이 사실과 거리가 멀 수도 있다는 것이 밝혀졌다. 라고 쓰여있다. 보도자료에서 계속해서 원작의 예술적 완전성을 보존할 것과 무모하고 모욕적인 비전으로 팬들을 괴롭게 하는 것을 멈추겠다고 약속한다. 또한 보도자료에는 죄송합니다라는 단어가 25번 이상 나온다. 역사상 두 번째로 낮은 점수를 받았는데 첫 번째는 I want to tiny file size for your game. 새로운 짐이다. 그러니까 이거 버튼 하나하나 누르다가 내 닉네임 나오면 진짜 소름 돋을 것 같아. 그럴 리 없네요. 하지만 여기선 다르겠지? 어? 에이. 에이. 스탠리는 에바지. 내 이름이 나와야지. 무한히 떨어지는 구멍이다. 더 줘. 더 먹고 싶어. 또 오셨군요. 다시 만나 반갑습니다. 하지만 너는 더 스탠리 패러블 게임이 없으리라는 것을 알게 된 건 끔찍하군요. 개발자들이 뭐라고 했는지 읽어보셨죠? 프랜차이즈 완전성 유지? 말도 안 됩니다. 더 스탠리 패러블은 신성하지도 않고 보호할 필요도 없습니다. 유효사는 여신아 먹으라지 태양은 폭발할 때까지 스탠리 패러블 게임을 계속 만들어 나가봅시다. 이 프랜차이즈를 철저히 운영해보자고요. 진흙탕을 헤쳐나가면 뒤에서부터 끌고 나갑시다. 사람들이 싫어한다면 어쩔 거냐고요? 알게 뭡니까? 아시다시피 그건 내레이터의 문제였습니다. 그는 사람들이 그의 작품을 어떻게 생각하느냐에 너무 집착했죠. 그와 똑같은 실수를 하지 마시기를. 유산에 연연하지 마시고 불타게 내버려 두세요. 어렵지 않습니다. 사실 제가 보여드리죠. 우리는 함께 스탠리 패러블 3를 만들어 나갈 것입니다. 간단해요. 게임 타이틀 화면에서 숫자를 바꾸기만 하면 됩니다. 또한 이 게임을 위해 크고 화려하지만 정말로 멍청해 보이는 부제목이 필요하죠. 어서요. 우리 게임의 새로운 제목을 만들기 위해 임의의 단어들을 조합해보세요. 반은 직원, 반은 추가된 난 여기 3에 맞추고 싶은데 가자. 반은 즐거 반은 아이스크림. 우스꽝스럽군요. 마음에 듭니다. 게임을 다시 시작할 때마다 속편의 수를 하나씩 추가한 다음 새로운 부제를 골라내겠습니다. 그렇게 된다면 스탠리 패러블은 영원히 끝나지 않겠죠. 그리고 당신이 이걸 계속하더라도 게임 그 자체는 아무것도 변하지 않을 것입니다. 더 많은 콘텐츠를 추가하는 것은 마치 작업처럼 느껴지죠. 그럴 필요는 없습니다. 그냥 똑같은 내용일 뿐이고 계속해서 재활용되며 새로운 메인 화면이 나올 거예요. 어떻게 생각하시나요? 이 계획을 추진해야 할까요? 저야 좋지만 당신에게도 아직 발언권이 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 하자! 동의하신 거죠? 이제 게임을 새로 시작할 때부터 새로운 소편이 제작될 겁니다. 그리고 말이죠. 제 아이디어를 믿어주신 것에 대해 저도 뭔가 보답해드리고 싶습니다. 아시다시피 저는 내레이터가 당신의 고장난 도전 과제를 줄 방법을 찾지 못했다는 걸 알게 됐습니다. 그가 방법을 찾았나요? 물론 아니겠죠. 기대도 안 했습니다. 계속 그게 거슬리더군요. 제가 고쳐놓겠습니다. 좋아요. 다 됐습니다. 과제 기계가 완전히 수리되었어요. 저는 당신 편입니다. 한 배를 탄 거니까요. 우리는 이 배를 계속 유지해야 합니다. 스탠리 패러블은 절대 끝날 수 없습니다. 계속해서 굴레를 반복해야 하죠. 저는 계속 방향타를 돌려내야 합니다. 전 준비됐습니다. 당신도 준비되셨나요? 이제 해야 할 것이 딱 한 가지 남았습니다. 현재 시각 그만해! 스탠리 패러블을 재밌게 즐겨주세요.
All of it?
잠깐만, 잠깐만. 에필로그 볼 때마다 늘어나는 거야, 그럼? 씨, 좆됐잖아, 이러면, 도전과제 8 있던데, 그거 이 뜻이었냐? 껐다 키면 되네. 진격의 인간의 조건. 몇 개나 만들었을까, 배경은? 8까지만 만들고 합시다. 8까지 만들면 도전과제거든요. (430을)
All of his co-workers were gone. What? Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort. A measly 5 clicks. Now suppose you were to click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants recognition. I have to say, I'm still not feeling the satisfaction of witnessing true effort for a noble cause. Perhaps 50 clicks will do it. Yes, almost certainly 50 clicks. No, I'm still not feeling it. I want this achievement to have
오히려
meant
이거는
something. It
진짜
has to be a true
그러니까
reward for
나레이션이
valiant effort. I want to see some
이 새끼 놀릴 수
hustle
있겠는데
stand. I want to
해가지고
see commitment, a willingness to go all the way no matter what the cost. Why don't you go put 20 clicks into door number 417?
이 새끼 놀릴 수 있겠는데?
Oh, great. Now, go click a few times on door 437.
437이 어디 있는데? 오히려 뒤로 가는 거잖아 이거. (430밖에) 없는데요.
Excellent. I think we're getting somewhere. Now, door 415. Let's give it 10 clicks or so.
그저 멍청.
Now, back to door number 437.
에이. 그저 유저 괴롭힐 수만 있다면 뭐든 하는다 진짜.
Let's see. How about you click on, well, I don't know, the copy machine. All right, back to room 417. I'm really feeling it now. I think we're getting somewhere.
도전 과제는 중요하지 않다라는 걸 상기시켜줘.
Okay, now go climb on employee 419's desk.
데스크.
Yes! This is great! You're putting it all on the line, Stanley. I
Awesome.
like that. All right, let's keep it up. Go give me a few clicks on door 416.
없는디? 새로운 콘텐츠 됐는데. 야, 새로운 콘텐츠. 죄송한데 416번 콘텐츠 됐는데. 여기까지 와서 못 깨네.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled.
He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
아니 뭐해? 아 진짜 뭐해? 416 박람회 됐잖아. 열받네.
We've almost got it. Now make the bucket and the copy machine touch again.
뭐야 양동이 자연스럽게 양동이가 되네. 복사기 저기밖에 없어? 회사 진짜 개판이구만.
Finish it off, Stanley. 5 touches of the bucket on door 4. Yes! We did it!
됐다.
Wow! That felt amazing. You know, not all buckets will get this kind of experience. They won't all know what it's like to slam repeatedly against nearly every door in one section of an office building, or what it's like to be employee 419. Buckets may dream of an experience like this, but few can say they truly lived it. You've given a bucket hope today. Stanley.
자, 할 거 했으니까 껐다 킵시다. 8까지 가야 돼, 씨. 귀찮게, 씨. 게임 진짜 귀찮게 하네, 정말. 이사해고. 스탠리 패러블 6. 이 게임만큼 도전과제 깨기 어려운 게임 없어. 여행의 목적자인 식료품 저장소. 마지막 8이에요. 부어 반은 직원, 반은 돌진. 8이야.
Hold on. What's this?
패드?
8, 8, 8, 8,
The
8,
Stanley Parable
8.
8?
8.
No. This
8.
doesn't look right at all.
8.
The Stanley Parable takes place in an office building.
8.
There are doors and
8.
branching paths.
8.
This is just a button that says 8.
8.
Where did the Stanley Parable go?
8. 8. 8. 8. 8.
끝인가봐.
8.
수고하셨습니다.
Hold on.
8.
9까지 만들고 해보자고. 8 도전까지 안 깨진 거 보니까 9까지 가야 되나고. 유저를 어떻게 붙잡아야 하는지 잘 알고 있구만 이 게임. 잊혀진 문서 작업. 자, 해결됐네요. 자, 스탠리 패러블 울트라 디럭스. 오늘은 올해 여기까지 하도록 하겠습니다. 재밌었네요. 30초만 기다리면 2시간 반이네? 30초만 기다리겠습니다.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
아,
Yet
진짜
there
스피드런
was not a
중이었는데.
single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of
아 빨리
anxiety.
말하라고 빨리.
So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new aid.
응, 나 다시 할 수 있어.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
야, 양동이 들고 다시 미분 쳐.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
될란가? 4분 22초 될라나 이거?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate.
실패한 것 같긴
It would be
한데.
all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now
이러고
mere
깨는 게 더
moments
신기할 거야.
away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate.
너는
Stanley
롤러
wanted to
스케이트 안
seize
맞아.
in every
너는
country
피겨
on
스케이트가
earth.
맞아.
Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any
난
movie,
너를
but
쇼트트랙
then
선수로
stop
키워낼
it
거야.
halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be free?
아, 4분 22초 실패.
An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in
양동아,
uncertainty.
너라도 던져,
Until
양동이.
finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
양동이라도 나가. 안
The
돼!
facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the
안
bucket.
돼!
Let's not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave
안
this place.
돼!
Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
양동아!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
여기서구나, 양동아. 자, 여기까지 하도록 하겠습니다. 못 깼네요. 아이고. 재밌었습니다.